I need y'all to know he's sassy thwapping me with his tail. This cat has more sass in his tail than any other bone in his body.
Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing a raid my shelves for high fantasy books. Alright, before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what is your favorite fantasy book. Alright, so this is another raid my shelves, which is basically just me picking out books from my own TBR with some sort of a theme. Very simple. I'll put a link to the playlist up above if you're intrigued. As I mentioned, this one is going to be me trying out high fantasy adult stories. I love fantasy books. I used to fight it for many years. My brother gave me so much crap whenever I said that I didn't like fantasy stories, because the truth is, I do. I just didn't understand what I liked in fantasy stories, so I kind of wrote the genre off as a whole. However, since I got back into reading, I have found time and time again that fantasy is one of my most read genres anytime I do my stats at the end of the year. For quite a while, I tended to still go towards the YA side. I'm not going to get into the big specifics of YA versus adult because I feel like that's a conversation for another time. But namely, with high fantasy stories, there tends to be a lot more building on the world, a far more intricate plot, and usually the themes themselves are a bit heavier and darker. That's very ironic to say when for a hot sec a lot of YA fantasies were based in dystopian societies. Anyway, the three books that I'm going to be reading include Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, the first in the Mirrored Earth and Sky trilogy, I believe. I don't think it actually says on here, but I'm pretty sure that's the name of the series. Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn, the first in the Locked Tomb Quartet. And the one I'm most excited for, City of Brass by 𝗖cie Chakraborty. All three of these are high fantasy adult stories that I have had recommended to me many a times, and I've heard so many positive things about. City of Brass by 𝗖cie Chakraborty, the one I am most hopeful for. This has been recommended to me so many times because I love the Sands of Aralia duology, and I've heard that this is very similar to that, just adult. This story is following a young woman who is a thief in 18th century Cairo and performing some sort of fake ritual and ends up accidentally summoning a jinn warrior, only to then find out that she herself may have some jinn blood. So he ends up taking it upon himself to move her to the city of Daevabad. I've been wanting to get to it for quite some time now. It is on my 5-star predictions list, so I'm really excited to get around to this one. Next is one I've said I was gonna read many times, Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This one is a sci-fi fantasy. The only thing I wanted to know going into this story is that we are following lesbian necromancers in space. My friend Molly adores this series, and I'm fairly certain that if I tell her I don't like it, she might cry. And then finally is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. What I knew going into this book, the reason I originally wanted it was because it is based on civilizations of pre-Columbian America. There's a character who has some sort of mermaid qualities, and I think is like a pirate also, which is just very cool. She is tasked with taking this person to the city of Tova. Although she's not asking any questions, she's fairly certain something dark lurks. I think I originally was interested by this because of Dasha at Mythic Pages. So that is it for now. Fingers crossed that I don't get too confused. Hopefully actually follow these stories and even more so like them. Hey y'all, I meant to update this vlog so much sooner. I started this book last Friday, but my job has been absolutely insane right now. We've had this huge project going on that was supposed to be done by the end of December. Today, it was pushed back to ending in January, thank God. So I have more time. Finally feel relaxed coming home for the first day all week, and I finally have the time to update you about Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I am actually at page 327, so yeah, like I said, I wanted to update y'all a lot sooner, but life. I went into this knowing absolutely nothing. Okay, that's kind of a lie. I knew that this had basis in civilizations from pre-Columbian America, but that was kind of it. And then the final line of the synopsis that really got me intrigued: as 𝗖ție well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. And now, having started this book, I am very curious to see if he is in fact the villain, or if the author is kind of making us think he's the villain, but in reality he's not. Or she could totally do a twisty twist on me, which would be very clever, because at this point I really enjoy him. I like him a lot. I don't want him to be a bad guy. On top of that, the basis of pre-Columbian America is a very cool place to do a fantasy setting. I really like that the author has created the world very well. I really can see every setting. Even though there isn't a map, I do feel like I actually understand this entire country, the layout of it, all the different areas, the ways the cultures differ in each of these areas. And then with that one character who may or may not possibly be a villain, we also get to see the basis of a possible religious war that is about to break out, and I love that. Kind of makes me think of the latter half plot in The Wolf and the Woodsman. In that book, it was really clearly Christianity warring with Judaism and then also some paganism. I don't know if the author actually based each of these religions in this book off of real religions from pre-Columbian America. However, I'm definitely going to look into it because I'm loving this. It's so cool. We also see from a character on the opposite side, through the eyes of the head priest in the religious majority for this country. I don't know if I would say I like her. I kind of just pity her at this point. I feel bad for her. She's going through some shit, and there's definitely some political scheming going on, which also has me really intrigued. Anytime we get to see in her perspective, there's always some backstabbing going on, some playing behind the scenes, making things happen whether this person wants them to or not. Honestly, my favorite character overall is probably 𝗖ție. We kind of get some seafaring elements with her because she's sort of a captain, like pirate captain, but also a fantastical creature too, which is really cool. Her energy on the whole just reminds me of Rick from The Mummy. I mean, she's got that bisexual, chaotic energy going on. This big secret that separates her from the men on the ship, but at the same time gives her power. She's also just really charismatic and kind of funny. There is possibly a romantic element that's gonna spring up between her and the maybe villain character. Really intrigued to see what's gonna happen there. I definitely can feel the chemistry, but I also think it would be really interesting if all this chemistry ends up leading to a big explosion of something else that I'm not gonna talk about because of spoilers. I have theories though. Then there's a fourth character who I don't really feel any particular way about because we honestly have only seen from him like 3 times in this entire book. 2 out of 4 of these characters link with the minor religious element in this country, which is the Carrion Crow clan. Even the clan itself considers these people cultists. So again, I don't know if I should be rooting for them or rooting against them. And I think that's really clever on the author's part because I am emotionally conflicted. On top of the world just being well established, I also think the author does a good job with atmosphere. Yeah, that's all I can really think of. I did not have any notes when I went into this update, so this is going to be really chaotic to edit. I'm really enjoying this. I definitely understand why everybody has been talking about this book because it is so fun. It's very different too to a lot of other fantasy I read. There's elements that remind me of other books, but all in all, it does feel like this is kind of its own thing. To be fair though, I don't have a ton of experience with higher adult fantasy, which is in fact the entire point of this video. Take that comment with a grain of salt. Hey y'all, so round 2 of going into reviewing Black Sun with absolutely no notes written down. I finished this today and holy shit. I understand all the hype. I get it. I totally get it. It makes perfect sense. This was so freaking good. The different religions, the political scheming taking place, all of that sort of stuff just kept me so incredibly invested the entire way through. 𝗖ție continued to be my favorite character. I also tried my hardest not to be completely obsessed with the budding romance that happens between 2 of our main characters in this because I've been trying to not put so much focus on romantic subplots lately. But by the end,
I couldn't deny that I was just completely lost for those two. There's this specific scene where they both think like this is goodbye for them. They're not gonna see each other again after this. It is so beautifully intimate, purely so sweet and wholesome. It is probably one of the most intimate scenes I have read recently. It was, yeah, I still can't get over that. It was so good. As far as the political scheming goes, there was like a certain portion of the plot that I did sort of see that coming, but at the same time, it also took a surprising twist that I'm very intrigued to see what is going to happen with Nara, who was the sun priest, the opposing religious group that initially we're supposed to believe is good, but obviously like lines of good and evil in this book definitely blur, and you really do spend a lot of the time trying to decide who are you supposed to be rooting for. I definitely have my thoughts, but I think that's what the author's trying to do, is really make you second guess everything when it comes to good versus evil. Everything is not very black and white within this book, and I really like that. But with Nara, the role she plays towards the end of the book has me very, very interested to see what is going to become of her in the next book. I have no idea where that's gonna go. And then the character who we'd only seen from a few times, by the end of the book, I definitely think he is going to play a larger role in the second book, which is Fevered Star. And after reading this, oh my god, yes, I want to read it. I want to read it so badly. Also, something I don't think I talked about in my previous update at all was that there is such fantastic casual queerness throughout the story. 𝗖cie is bisexual. We see multiple different side characters who are in same-sex relationships. There is a trans side character who we meet. There are also two different individuals who are major players within the plot, but not main characters, who use neo-pronouns. So across the board, I think the author did a fantastic job in utilizing that within the story to both give that diversity, but it also felt very well incorporated within this world. Totally messed up in terms of filming this video for this book, because I meant to film like 3 different updates and I wanted them to be a little bit better structured. Clearly that has not happened here. So I'm officially continuing this video. I finally picked up my second high fantasy / sci-fi book. I started into Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talking about this book lately, which definitely was a big reason of why I really wanted to pick it up. Also, I was buddy reading it with my friend Allie. I also kept hearing from everybody that this series is so confusing, which is why I went in knowing I was gonna have to annotate this to try and keep things straight, and thank God I did that because there's a lot going on in this. Starting out, we have our main character, Gideon, who she's built. She is a tank. She specializes in using a longsword. She's a hardcore lady. She is also a slave. No, she's not necessarily a slave. She's like a serf to 𝗖ญ่, who is basically the princess? No. What's like the official term they use for 𝗖ญ่? The heir to the House of the Ninth, the reverend daughter. So she is the one in charge, and Gideon is unfortunately her serf. The two of them hate each other. After some events unfold, they end up striking an agreement that Gideon will become the cavalier, the bodyguard, the swordsman for 𝗖ญ่and the House of the Ninth when they travel to the... you see, I keep having to look things up because there is a lot of terminology being thrown at me while I'm reading this. The Necrolord priesthood's Canaan house. Basically, they and their equals on all of the other 9 planets all travel to the Canaan house and are working to try and become lictors, which I'm still trying to figure out what that is and what that means. I assume like a higher necromancer, I think. Seems as though necromancy is pretty much the main power ability in this world, and whenever things start out, it actually feels almost more historical. The Dreerbur, that just doesn't sound right. Basically, the castle of the Ninth definitely feels like something out of a medieval TV show. It is dark, it is dank, it smells like mold, it's filled with all of these reanimated dead and people who are clinging to life. However, whenever Gideon and 𝗖ญ่go to travel to the Canaan house, they get on a spaceship, and that's when things take a sci-fi turn, which honestly was very unexpected. Thus far, I would say I'm enjoying this. like I said, it is really confusing. There is a lot of terminology. There's a lot of characters. God bless the character sheet at the front. However, now that we're at the palace, the Canaan house, I think I've sort of pieced together what's happening. Yet, I'm sure that is only going to be the start of this and that things will evolve a lot more from there. Currently, I'm at 128 pages and I'm liking it. Except for the possible romance that's being developed. I'm not 100% sure on if it's a romance and if it is in fact between our two main characters. If it is, I think it's just leaning a little bit too much into the hate now that like it's officially pushing into bully territory, and that's not my thing. I don't enjoy that. Apprehensive in that regard.
You're like, why? Why must I? Because you fit on theme. Your name is Samwise. It fits that you would be in this video. I need y'all to know he's sassy thwapping me with his tail. This cat has more sass in his tail than any other bone in his body.
Anyway, hey guys. So I have to update y'all about Gideon because I literally just hit Act 4. Which apparently this is broken down in acts. Did not realize it whenever I first started. I am liking it. It's I'll be the first to say, it's confusing. There is so much going on. Look at these 20 million tabs I have going. And like, I have a whole system broken down. I'm tabbing characters, world building, plot, major questions, magic system, and then I have 2 ships. There's a lot going on in regards to the plot. Basically, we're following Gideon and Harrow as they are trying to investigate this haunted gothic palace in space, like this person blurbed at the front of the book. Fancy necromancer-based traps and tasks they have to work through. With the tasks and the challenges, I feel like is how we're really getting to learn more about the magic system, because apparently every single one of these 9 planets within the Empire's realm, I guess, let's say, each one of them has a different speciality of necromancy, which is fascinating. I will say this has taken me on quite a roller coaster ride. I'm really intrigued on how things are possibly going to progress forward now, because oh my god, this is fantasy. This is definitely sci-fi, but at the same time, like, now it's sort of almost a murder mystery, and I love it. Like a locked room murder mystery. I'm so impressed with how things have progressed and evolved in this book. It's still a lot going on. It definitely is. Thank God that I'm annotating it. Molly keeps reiterating the fact that Muir does nothing on accident. Everything is so detail oriented. You kind of just have to follow along to figure out like why all of this stuff is actually as important as it is. And I'm so impressed and also terrified that there are 3 more books in the series, because I am really enjoying this. I am. It's a wild ride. I totally understand why a lot of people would not enjoy this, but it's working for me. It really is. There's a ton of exposition, lots of world building, but also a lot of character dives. I mean, I know Gideon so well now, and at this point I'm actually feeling like I really understand Harrow, and I like seeing the dynamics that have grown between Gideon and Harrow and some of these other people, namely Palamedes, I think is his name, and Camilla. I do really like them. I actually feel like this is going fantastic. What I literally just finished reading, like the events exactly prior to Act 4, wild. Insane. I really hope that I can form some cohesive and coherent thoughts out of this update, because I had no notes going into this, and this is literally just me flying by the seat of my pants and spewing things at you. Good luck to editing that.
Hello, beautiful people. So I officially finished out Gideon the Ninth, and tamsyn Muir, how dare you? How could you do that to me? But like, also, wow, I really enjoyed this. I really liked this. It's a wild time. Look at all of these tabs. I swear it felt like I was tabbing almost every single page of it. Characters and world building were the most important at the beginning, and then towards the end it was a lot more plot and magic system, because clearly the magic system is still evolving. Like, we're still learning about it, and by the time we hit the climax, even then we're still seeing like some big things that we have not been able to see prior because of the amount of power the big bad has. It's insane. The development development of Gideon and Harrow's relationship is also just really fantastically done. I was really impressed because at the start of this, I knew a little bit going into it from fan art and stuff, and I wondered if I was supposed to be shipping Gideon with Harrow, and I just could not see that happening because Harrow was so mean. She was so mean to Gideon, but the two of them are just going back and forth trying to kill each other literally from the first time they're both on page. It's insane. And so I never thought I would feel positively about their relationship. Like, I could kind of maybe see begrudging friends, but by the end of this, no, yeah, I was kind of shipping them, I'll admit it. It was weird, but I think the fact that we see a lot of development around Harrow's character specifically allowed for that to happen. We get a lot more exploration of why she is the way she is, the background of her as an individual, and then the importance of her role in her house. Gideon I just loved from the get-go, and I continue to love. The female himbo really is the perfect characterization label for her. She doesn't know what's happening most of the time. She's just following along. She's big, she's strong, she wants to swing at things with her sword. I love it. Some of the other side characters I also started to really enjoy were Palamedes and Camilla. I loved those two a lot as well, and the dynamic between those two with Harrow and Gideon was also very entertaining. As far as plot twists go, I wouldn't say I called anything. I was suspicious of a character who they weren't the one responsible for everything happening, but they definitely didn't help matters. I guess I'll put it that way. As far as the writing goes, it did continue to do this weird thing of like, somehow it feels old school fantasy while also being very futuristic with the sci-fi, and then the dialogue is crazy modern, particularly around Gideon. Her just spewing profanities left and right at certain points definitely highlighted that, and then the humor really does kind of just come out of nowhere. But I don't know, for me, I think it worked well because a lot of the times it would be Gideon bringing that humor, and it would be in scenarios where a lot of other serious stuff is happening but we need a little bit of levity, and she would provide that. There was one specific scene towards the end of the book, like we're going into the climax and Gideon is just a total idiot. It was so funny. I've told that scene to like so many people in my life now because it was so hilarious. Action worked really well in this. I think Muir can hold your attention with a scene but doesn't drag it out too long, excluding the climax. It did kind of start to drag a bit in the climax. I don't really think there are too many things in this that I would like actively quote, but in regard to like characters, there were a few really good quotes. Some of them make sense out of context, but like if you weren't reading the book, you wouldn't really get the importance of it. Them in the book though really did kind of hit me. They were really good. I had to tab those. Finally did a compile breakdown because I wasn't sure what my rating was going to come out to, just because I was really confused for a lot of it. I think you have to like confusion to enjoy this book. If you don't like being confused, you don't like being lost, I can understand why you wouldn't like this, but I don't mind that feelings. I think knowing that definitely helped me. Pacing it's pretty slow, but then it has some really fast jumps at times, so it is kind of wonky, and those are like really the only two things I can kind of see as negatives, meaning my compile breakdown for this came out to like 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This was phenomenal.
Hey guys, so I have finally started into the last book for this video, City of Brass by 𝗖cie Chakraborty. I am currently at page 126. So this is the one I was probably most excited for going into this video. And unfortunately, I do not think we are off to a strong start. I think the biggest reason for that so far is that I just don't feel strongly for these characters in any way. None of the major three characters we've met so far feel different. Nothing really separates them from other characters with similar personality traits. Nari is likable, but sarcastic. She has this very tortured backstory. She's always been fending for herself, and you can definitely feel that from just the energy she puts out. Dara is clearly supposed to become the lovable asshole character who also has a far more tragic backstory. And then Ali is like the spoiled prince with a heart of gold. And again, I don't think it's fair of me to be thinking of these characters as such basic archetypes, but thus far that's what they feel like to me. There's nothing particularly special about them to engage me, to win me over. They're just sort of there. I will say though, shockingly, the thing that I am enjoying the most is the world building. I say shockingly, it's not super shocking because I do tend to enjoy Middle Eastern based fantasy stories. I mean, one of my all-time favorite YA fantasies is We Hunt the Flame,
which has many pieces of mythology similar to this book, which actually has worked very well for me because it does make me feel very settled in that aspect of the story. I do think Chakraborty has done something very interesting by mixing those elements with actual pieces of Egyptian history. And then it's also very cool that we're seeing Muslim practices taking place in these different characters as well. On top of that, with the fantastical world that has been created for us at 𝗖𝗎by̱, there's clearly some race issues that are taking place, and that has me intrigued for the political plot that is going to be developing. But again, with that, my problem ties back to the characters of, do I care about seeing these characters with this plot? Do I actually feel intrigued to see what role they're going to play, how they impact the story? And like, that's such a shame because I was really excited for this book. But right now, I think what I'm enjoying the most and what I've been tabbing the most is the world building, which there is a lot of. It is constantly growing, I will say. Everything in the story is always being brought back to the world building. As far as the writing goes also, the pacing is very start, stop, which does sort of make for a jumpy reading experience. And the writing style itself isn't my favorite. When it comes to the atmosphere, dialogue is pretty stilted. This was unexpected, and this is a shame. I am only 126 pages into this, and it is over 500 pages, so maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe I just need to shut up and keep reading, which I'm going to do anyway. But I just want to put out my concerns now, because I'm nervous.
Hey guys, so this update is a lot sooner than I was initially anticipating. I have hit 200 pages into The City of Brass by 𝗖cie Chakraborty, and I just don't care. I don't care. I don't care about any of these characters at all. In fact, romantic angle popped up out of nowhere that has me rolling my eyes so hard, and that was honestly the thing that officially made me put this book down. I've heard that apparently that's quite common. Most people don't really enjoy that romance, but it just reinforced the fact that I don't care about these characters. I was a little bit confused following the plot that was being built up. I actually ended up posting on my Instagram asking for some assistance and trying to figure out what the heck was happening. Katie from Katie's All Booked was kind enough to help me out, and once she set me on the right path, I totally understood. I got it. I was following way better. But not long after that, I came to the realization that if I don't care about these characters, I am not going to care about watching this political plot unfold. I also don't really think this writing style is my favorite. Chakraborty is very descriptive about the setting, but not in a way that makes the atmosphere come to life. I don't feel settled into this world. I still think the basis of the story is very interesting. The Egyptian history mixed with Middle Eastern folklore, I love that. Again, if I don't like and can't root for any of the characters, this is gonna be a slog for me. And it was. I mean, 200 pages was quite a slog. So unfortunately, I ended up DNFing this one, which I am so sad to say, because honestly, of all the books I read for this video, I had the highest hopes for this. I really thought I was gonna love this book. I thought I was gonna adore this series. This is not it though. So to officially close this video out with the 3 books that I read, my final conclusion is that yeah, I like high fantasy books. I definitely could enjoy them. This is probably gonna make me start considering them a bit more, even though the size of every one of these does terrify me a little bit still, I will admit. Also have come to the conclusion that I already knew. I'm very much a character-based reader. If I don't enjoy the characters, I'm not gonna enjoy the story. And City of Brass was not the only example of that. This video has taken quite some time to film. So I have actually read the sequel of Black Sun, as well as both sequels to Gideon the Ninth. Across the board, the characters are something I love most about the Locked Tomb series. While I adored Black Sun, especially because of the 3 characters we were following, in Fevered Star, the sequel, I did end up rating it lower because I wasn't as big a fan of one of the main characters we followed, a new one who was introduced. And these 2 in particular, and possibly City of Brass, I'm not quite sure, I didn't reach that yet. I also found that I love religious themes. That's not super shocking because I have enjoyed religious themes in other stories as well, but how it's utilized in both of these definitely added to my enjoyment of the political intrigue and the plot itself, the dynamics between the different characters, all of that. Unexpected results. I honestly would have thought, actually, that kind of worked out perfectly. I would have thought if you asked me how this was going to go down, this would be my ranking of the books. I expected 𝗖cie of Brass to be my favorite and Gideon the least, because Gideon is also sci-fi and I've heard it's confusing, but in reality, it's actually more like this. Black Sun absolutely won out, and Gideon, though confusing, I actually adored. Gideon is my second favorite in the series though, so Harrow is fantastic. It's so crazy and so confusing, but it is so good. And on that note, all right, y'all, that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!